Alright, there's a bunch of different kinds of cameras, and knowing the strengths and weaknesses of each kind of camera will let you use the right tool for the job at the right time. Not all photographers only use one camera. You know, you've got your camera phone, a compact camera, a bridge camera, a mirrorless, and DSLRs. This is a DSLR, but you'll find plenty of times when I've just shot with my iPhone. You know, anything in between is fine. You just use the right tool for the job at the right time. This camera phone fits in your pocket, super handy. This DSLR, not really going to fit in your pocket. This is kind of a beast. I shoot with the 1DX Mark II and I shoot arenas and, you know, sports and that kind of thing. It's a much bigger camera than this, and I put a big old lens on it too. We're going to get into lenses here soon. But each of these has its purpose, you know. They're not perfect for everything, but nothing is. You've got a little trade-off with every situation. Alright, but if you see what I've done here is I've grouped them into two major kind of groups. This first group with your camera phone, compact camera, bridge cameras, these are all like an all-in-one kind of system. So they include a lens, the camera, the body, everything is included. Sometimes even a flash is included. Usually a flash is included with these kind of cameras. And then these kind of cameras, these are like more of a camera system. Camera system. And these are all in one. All in one. Hopefully you guys can read that okay. These camera systems have lenses that you can interchange. You can swap these lenses. You put a flash on top. You can put a flash off camera. You can put different accessories on this. There's an entire system full of accessories that you can add to these, you know, DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. Now, I love DSLRs. I love mirrorless cameras. We're shooting on a mirrorless camera here. I have a DSLR here. I have my iPhone in my pocket. I've definitely carried around some compact cameras. They're fun to just kind of, you know, quick point and shoot kind of a deal. This bridge camera is, I don't know, I've never really loved a bridge camera. I know a lot of people that get along fine with them, and that's cool. Some of these have crazy big lens ranges, so you might have like a 28mm to 600mm lens on one. So that's huge. We're going to get into lenses, so don't worry if you don't know what that means. Don't worry, we're going to get there. But these are really cool. Some of these compact cameras can be like an advanced compact cameras, is like a subcategory of these, and those have all kinds of accessories. Some of them have some really good lenses on them, and they can, some of them even have a hot shoe, and we're going to get into all the different parts and pieces of a camera, but they have ways to attach accessories onto these advanced ones, and they are very nice. They're very good quality. There's nothing wrong with them. Now, the right tool for the right job at the right time. If you're just taking a selfie, you know what, that phone, great, no problem. If you're trying to freeze action in the arena and you want to strobe it and you want to do all this crazy stuff, mirrorless DSLRs, that's where it's going to be at for those. These will also take a selfie. You know, they'll all do a lot of basic kind of things, but when you get into more nuanced, more advanced things, there's certain things, you know, you just want to use the right camera for the job, but the best camera is the one that you've got on you. So that might be your camera phone. It might be, you know, if you carry around a DSLR with you all the time like I do, you'll find this if you know, see me driving around or whatever. This is in the front seat. I always have it with me. There's always a camera within arm's reach of me, and I love that. So it's nice to be able to have this equipment, and it's nice to know how to use it at the time when a situation comes up, and that's why you're in this course. That's why you're taking this little class, so we can deep dive into exactly how to use these. So no matter which one of these camera categories that you currently use and own, this course that we're going to go through right now is going to be useful. So even if you're just here with a camera phone and you say, oh, all I've got is a camera phone, I can't be a photographer, I can't learn photography. No, that's just you. That is just you're limiting yourself there. We are going to go through some stuff in here that you can use an iPhone for, or you can use a Samsung or whatever. You can use the camera on your phone and I'll show you how to take control of that camera and really get some good results with just a phone. You'll be surprised how many awesome pictures that you can take with just a phone. It'll blow your mind. All right, first thing let's talk about that phone that you've got in your pocket, because we all start there. We all have one. You know, whether you're a seasoned professional photographer and you've been at this, you know, for a while now, and you've got some good equipment, I guarantee you reach in your pocket, there's probably a phone there. So let's start with that. Let's start with your phone. There's a lot of nice things about it. For one, you always have it with you. It is right there in your pocket. The other nice thing, number two, is there's apps that you can get for your phone. Now these apps are great, and some of them are better than others. I'll give you that. There are some really bad apps out there. So, you know, you want to try them all out and see what you like and, you know, what you get along with. There's some great free ones out there too. Some you got to pay a little bit of money for, but these apps can do wonders for your phone. Some of them let you control your phone manually, give you kind of a manual mode or a manual-esque kind of mode. Some of them will let you get different looks and styles and edits and whatever right there. It's super fast. I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably familiar. You're nodding your head. Yeah, Oli, we get it. Right. One thing you might not know is not only do you get apps, but you also get lenses. Now, there's a lot of clip-on, kind of cheapy sort of lenses, but I absolutely am a huge fan of Moment lenses. They are really high-quality lenses, and what I love most about them is they actually clip in. You have to have a special case, which is, you know, they have some nice cases, so it's not a big deal, but these Moment lenses will put a whole new perspective on your camera phone. So if you are an Apple shooter, you know, you got an iPhone, they make a lot of cool stuff, and they definitely have those in there. But there's a lot of other phones that Moment makes cases for, and then you can use their lenses. Super cool. I definitely recommend them. If you haven't already looked into them, check out Moment lenses. Okay, now the third pro, the third, you know, big plus here. The third thing is that these images that you take, that you on your phone that you always have with you, you ran it through an app to make it cool, like maybe Instagram or whatever. Speaking of Instagram, you can share instantly. And that's huge. That's a huge bonus to your camera phone. We're going to get into the mirrorless cameras and some of these DSLRs. Definitely the compact cameras do it. But a lot of these other cameras you can also share pretty instantly by just sending it right to your phone. A lot of them will use Bluetooth or an ad hoc wireless network to send from the camera right to your phone. Then you can edit it and share it, boom, instantly right on mobile. It's super cool. So this isn't unique. These things aren't unique to iPhones or, you know, camera phones, but they definitely are a huge positive. Now, some of the negatives here are you have a small sensor. So what that means is the thing that actually captures the light, and we're going to get into sensors here in a minute, but basically you've got a small sensor, and size actually matters here. Size is important. This isn't you know, one of those things. I had somebody tell me one time, yeah, well, having this small sensor it sucks now, but in the near future, it's going to be so much better because, you know, it'll be even better than your big sensor, right? And it just actually can't in some ways. Some ways it can. Some ways it'll, you know, technology will get there, and technology is a great thing. But some things it can't really fix, and that's like physics. So having a physically larger sensor changes some things, and we're going to get into that when we get into lenses and how they interact with sensor size and that sort of thing coming up in this course. Bear with me, but just know having a small sensor is kind of like crippling here, and a lot of that is you're going to need more light. You're going to need a brighter light source because this small sensor just can't handle, you know, darkness. If you've ever taken your camera phone, you've tried to take a picture and it's pretty dark, you see the result is grainy and mushy and gross and looks awful, right? So that's why, is because your sensor is so small, it's just not built to handle it. The technology just isn't there yet. But anyway, small sensor. All right, so number 2 here, the number 2 like negative here is a fixed focal length lens. Now, we got around that somewhat by getting these moment lenses, and then you get to change your lenses out. Some phones, like you probably saw on my phone, right here in my pocket, my phone has 3 lenses, which is cool, but these are just 3. You're stuck with 3 lenses, and that's fine. You got a wide shot, you got your standard kind of shot, and then you got a more zoomed in sort of a shot, and that's fine, but you're still kind of stuck with those 3. Plus you can do these moment lenses, so you got a little bit of play there, but you'll see when we get into these guys, these are kind of getting outdated now, but these DSLRs, especially the Canon and Nikon, they really, really did a good job of having a tremendous amount of lenses to choose from, and that's where they really, really do shine. We'll get into that more in a second. 3, our last, and we're going to try to do 3 of each here. Our third thing is limited control over exposure. Now we get around this a little bit by having different apps, right? But your exposure is the brightness of the image and the darkness of the image. And yeah, you can click on it and you can drag up and down in most cases, and you can adjust that a little bit, but you're not actually able to control your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO that way. Now some apps will let you dig into the details and get there, but it's one of the things that is, a little bit challenging to access, and it's not really that great on camera phones. But these are kind of the 3 positives, 3 negatives of camera phones. Our next thing is compact cameras now. Compact cameras have 3 pluses. 1, 2, 3. All right, the first one is they are small, not quite as small as your phone, but they're growing. They're a little bit bigger, and then that makes them discreet, which is nice. Small, it's discreet. Somebody's not seeing you out there with this big, huge lens and whatever. People, little tourists just run around with the camera all the time. Nobody even notices them. Second, the number 2 thing is they have small to medium, depending on the model that you get, zoom range. So what that means is the amount of zoom. A lot of people know what zoom is, but it's how much your image is in and tight and pulled in tight, or how wide of a shot that it is. So you got a medium to small to medium zoom range there, kind of like this lens here on this camera here, just a little bit of a zoom, not much, but on these I can swap it out for a different lens. But on these compact ones, you're kind of stuck with that lens, and that's really one of the downfalls. We're gonna get to that. Now when we look at the compact cameras, we have that advanced one too, and sometimes some offer accessories. So some of them, this says offer. Oh boy. Sometimes my handwriting's terrible, sorry about that. Anyway, some of them have some accessories that you can get into. Now, on to the negatives, right? They've got compact cameras. What are the drawbacks of a compact camera? Okay, first of all, the first one is limited control. So you've got more control than you do on an iPhone or a phone. Let's just say iPhone, for example. You've got a little bit more control, but it's not nearly as much. You're limited on your aperture, you're limited on your ISO. They're just not as capable as something like this. So we're going to get into that. The second drawback is there's no viewfinder. Now some of the advanced ones have a little dinky viewfinder, but it's nothing to write home about. All right, it kind of sucks not having a viewfinder, because you find that you're out here and you're not as stable. You know, you're a little bit more shaky. Where if you are like this with a viewfinder, you can put it right up to your eyeball, and then you have another point of contact right here, and then 2 points of contact here. So you got 3 points of contact to keep you from shaking. So instead of being out here and being shaky, you're here and you can lock your elbows in. And we're going to get into like shooting technique and stuff in a little bit. But basically, if you're right here, you're locked in, you are solid, and you can shoot at really low shutter speeds and still get away with it if the situation calls for that. Our third real drawback is that autofocus is slow. I've ran several of these, probably 4 or 5 different kinds of compact cameras, and spent $1,500 on one, like fairly decent camera. But that autofocus was miserably slow. Maybe that's just like, me being a snob here, because, shooting with a 1DX and you got a huge battery and lots of power and super fast lenses, whatever. I'm used to that instant gratification, right? Where these were like, they were getting there, but then they would hunt, and we'll get into like what hunting means, but basically it's searching for focus, and they really were having a hard time. Plus, you couldn't really tell it to focus on one specific point, and that's a drag for me. When you're trying to shoot action, a lot of you guys are here because you want to shoot rodeo events, you want to shoot sports kind of stuff, barrel racing and the such. Slow autofocus is not going to get you there. So this camera, I just wipe it off. I wouldn't even bother trying to shoot, with these or iPhone. Trying to shoot with your phone, trying to make money as a barrel racing photographer, probably not going to work. So that's it for compact cameras. Let's keep on moving on. Okay, our next category of cameras are the bridge cameras. Bridge. These have some pluses here. Number one plus is that you can use accessories. Like a flash or a remote. Stuff like that. It's just some basic kind of accessories, to kind of help what you're doing. You help in your photography. And 2, these are going to have automatic and manual modes. Now for some of you guys that are just getting started, you're going to be shooting in that auto a lot, and that's, you're going to want to default to that, and I would strongly encourage you to learn manual mode, and that's why you're here, right? We're going to get into that. We're going to get into manual mode very soon here, so just bear with me. But that's a huge plus of these bridge cameras, is we're starting to get into actual manual mode and being able to take control of that camera and tell it exactly what to do, and not let it try to pretend that it knows what we want, because that does not know what we want. Okay, now number 3, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but they have excellent, anybody know that reference? Excellent zoom ranges. Like I said earlier, you could have one that's like 28 to 600 millimeters, and I mean that's like common. Like I've seen of several lenses that are like that on these bridge cameras. Now what they mean by bridge is like, it's not a compact camera, but it kind of acts like one, but it's not quite like mirrorless camera, but it sort of looks like one, but it doesn't have an interchangeable lens like a mirrorless camera. We're going to get into that. But anyway, they're kind of like in that funky middle ground. Some people, like that area where they have more control, but it's still just an all-in-one kind of a thing where they have this huge zoom range. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, if this has got this huge zoom range, why on earth would I want to spend thousands of dollars on these different lenses that don't have that zoom range. For example, this lens is a 24 to 70, so not a lot of zoom here, but I would take this lens over this lens any day. You couldn't pay me to shoot with one of these. This is the ticket, and I'll tell you why when we get into lenses. We'll deep dive into exactly why this lens costs $2,000 or $2,200, and this camera, one of these cameras, is probably $1,000 or whatever. So maybe $2,000 for the whole camera, lens, the whole everything, the whole kit. Now, not that you can take this lens off or any stretch the imagination, but it has a lens and a camera, the whole thing ready to rock and roll is less than this lens by itself, right? So, all right, let's get into some of the negatives here. Some of the negatives, there's always some downsides here. Now, number one, I kind of already spilled the beans on this, but the lens cannot be changed. So you're stuck with whatever, you buy a camera, if it's got this lens or it's got a different lens on it, this isn't the only option here, but there's a lot of options. You're stuck with that lens. It's just like the compact cameras. You don't get to take that lens off and trade it for a different one. You're kind of stuck. Now, number two, our second thing is we're back to having a small, but not quite phone small, but still small sensor size. Now you'll see on those compact cameras, they don't all have a small sensor size. So I didn't want to, put that as a negative there, because I've shot some that have a very nice, APS-C, we'll get into that, but a fairly big sensor size, and that's fine. But these guys, most of them are going to have a small sensor size, and that's why they can put, one of the reasons, right, where they can get away with a big lens like that is because the sensor size is so small, so it's easier to fit that much glass in a small space. We can get into that. But anyway, they have a small sensor size, which means that they're going to have three here. They have poor, low